The big question, of course, everyone asking is how long can Nikki Haley stay in this race? We're seeing the Koch brothers steer their money to down ballot to other races. She's got a lot of meetings set up with big donors between now and Super Tuesday. Is that the real last stand?
Yeah, so she has 10 fundraisers set over 10 days, but these are not the big dollar Wall Street fundraisers she was having, just a month ago.
Yeah.
These are some, the price tickets on some of these are, around $1,000. There's even one later this week that's $5 to attend. So much smaller dollars that we're talking about here. And really, this is sort of the signal of the end of her campaign. Haley herself and her campaign manager said last week that they haven't even thought what comes beyond Super Tuesday. That's March 5th. So that's, just basically a week away from now. All the signs are that, she's going to close up shop here very quickly in the next week or two.
Well, and to that point, Laura, even as she says that clearly the numbers show there are a certain number of Republican primary voters who would not like Donald Trump to be the nominee, even if she were to go on securing 40% of the vote in Super Tuesday states, the delegate math just simply cannot work for her. There's no path unless she wins outright, right?
Yeah, the math, if you look at it, Trump will either get the nomination by March 12th or March 19th. So really, it's just a numbers game at this time. The advantage for Haley is because in these states, if you win, a percentage of the vote, you usually get a percentage of the delegate. Not for all cases, but in some cases. So the longer she runs, the more delegates that she can rack up. And in the event of, some sort of legal issue or health issue or anything else that would disqualify Trump from running, she would be the obvious person to potentially go in and take that spot. Doesn't guarantee her the nomination, but she would be well positioned for it.
Well, let's hear from Donald Trump. The former president took a victory lap early on Saturday in South Carolina. Here he is.
There's never been a spirit like this. And I just want to say that I have never seen the Republican Party so unified as it is right now. Never been like that.
Okay. So let's just get back to the fact, as Kailey mentioned, that Nikki Haley got 40%. Is that the vision of unity for someone who's running like an incumbent?
These are not great numbers for Trump. He is winning by wide margins, but there's still, as Haley has pointed out, a significant number of Republicans who want somebody else. And this is not a good sign for him going into some of these swing states where, if you have a disunited party, in some of these places like Michigan or Nevada, the actual party apparatus is at war with one another. So there's a lot of headwinds for Trump, not to mention he's facing his own money woes.
That could haunt him in the general, yeah.
Well, and we consider the idea of Republican Party unity. I'm not sure we see that on consistent display when it comes to the Republican Party on Capitol Hill. Certainly, if you think about the different Republican conferences in the Senate and in the House, Mike, of course, we come into this week realizing we may be facing a partial government shutdown at the end of it. Is there any sign to this point that is going to be avoided, and how?
Well, Mitch McConnell was just on the Senate floor saying we're not going to have a shutdown. We don't need to have one. Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, clearly does not want one. But just like you're seeing in the presidential primary where 40% of the party isn't with the incumbent president, you're seeing in the House a huge portion of the House Republicans that are dissenting from what Mike Johnson is trying to do here, and they're pushing a specific agenda. So the whole House and presidential primary, the Republicans are at war with each other, and that's reflected in this disagreements about spending, and it's reflected in the disagreements about Ukraine.
Tom Emmer, the majority whip, told us on this program, 2 weeks ago at this point, Kailey, no more CRs, and no, the government will not shut down. They'll have 3 days when they get back. Can they have both?
I think it's going to be really hard. They were trying to do something over the weekend where they would actually agree on permanent funding for the rest of the year for the parts of the government that are about to shut down at the end of the week. They haven't been able to agree on that so far, and just getting that through is going to take a long time. I think it's probably a contest between whether they have another temporary extension, what we in Washington call a CR, kick the can down the road a bit, or shut the government down. My money would be kick the can down the road, mainly because we've been through this drama so many times this year.
Yeah.
Every time at the end, we go to down to the wire, and then we kick the can down the road a little longer.
Well, this would be the fourth kick of the same can.
Yeah, the
by
can's
my
getting
count.
used to being kicked.
Yes, it is.
And you talk to traders on Wall Street, and they're like, yeah, we're not worried about it. We've seen this too many times before.
Or are they whistling past the graveyard?
Well, that is the question. And of course, President Biden is going to become more engaged in these conversations when he hosts the big four congressional leaders. That would be McConnell, Schumer, Jeffries, and Johnson at the White House tomorrow. Is that going to be something more focused on keeping the government open or about trying to get supplemental aid package, including funding for Ukraine, across the line? What's the administration's priority here?
The administration's priority is focusing on the Ukraine problem. They're also going to be trying to keep the government open, whether it's temporarily or long term. But the key political dilemma for the entire Biden administration right now is keeping the Ukraine funding going so that that war doesn't sort of fall apart in the next few weeks. They're also looking to do something on the border that will address a big political problem for them. People are upset about what's going on the border, and that is a piece of these talks. If the Biden administration just lets that fester all year, that's not going to be good for his reelection.
Let's bring Laura back into the conversation because we've got a primary tomorrow, and Donald Trump and Nikki Haley are not the only ones in it. We've got Joe Biden, again, spinning a couple of different plates here as he's having this meeting with the leadership in the House and the Senate. His surrogates are going to be working in Michigan, where he's been up against the wall here because of his Israel policy. All of these stories connect in pretty fascinating ways as he's going to be talking to the speaker about that supplemental budget request. How concerned should he be about this movement to vote uncommitted by Democrats?
This is a little bit of a scary thing for Joe Biden. Michigan has a large Arab American community, very upset about his handling of the Gaza fighting. And this is where Biden's coalition could really start to crack. Of course, Michigan is a very key state for the general election. Being a swing state will have a ton of attention on it. And if he is not able to, kind of figure out how to make these different portions of his coalition happy, he could have a lot of trouble in November. So this is a first sign we'll see, of how many people actually go out and vote uncommitted. We saw that efforts for that in New Hampshire didn't really pan out. Yeah. But, the new state, and this is more about something more existential for a lot of these voters.